name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Yasin. I swear by the Quran full of wisdom, most surely you're one of the apostles, on a right way, a revelation of the Mighty, the Merciful, that you may warn a people whose fathers were not warned, so they are heedless. Certainly, the word has proved true of most of them, so they do not believe. Surely we have placed chains on their necks, and these reach up to their chins, so they have their heads raised aloft. And we have made before them a barrier, and a barrier behind them. Then we have covered them over, so that they do not see. And it is alike to them, whether you warn them or warn them not, they do not believe. You can only warn him who follows the reminders and fears the Beneficent Allah is secret, so announce to him for forgiveness and an honorable reward. Surely we give life to the dead, and we write down what they have sent before and their footprints, and we've recorded everything in a clear writing, and set out to them an example of the people of the town, when the apostles came to it. When we sent the two, they rejected both of them. When we strengthened them with the third, they said, surely we are apostles to you. They said, you are naught but mortals like ourselves, nor has the Beneficent Allah revealed anything, you only lie. They said, our Lord knows that we are most surely apostle to you, and nothing devolves on us but a clear deliverance of the message. They said, surely we abhor evil from you. If you do not desist, we will certainly stone you, and there shall certainly afflict a painful chastisement from us. They said, your evil fortune is with you. What, if you are need reminded? Nay, you are an extravagant people. And from the remote part of the city there came a man running. He said, O my people, follow the apostles. Follow him who does not ask you for reward, and they are the followers of the right course. And what reason have I that I should not serve him who brought me back into existence, and to him you shall be brought back? What? Shall I take besides him gods whose intercession, if the Beneficent Allah should desire to afflict me with a harm, shall not avail me aught, nor shall they be able to deliver me? In that case I shall most surely be in clear error. Surely I believe in your Lord, therefore hear me. It was said, enter the garden. He said, oh, would that my people have known. Of that on account of which my Lord has forgiven me and made me the honored ones. And we did not send down upon him people, after him any host from heaven, nor do we ever send down. It was naught but a single cry, and lo, they were still. Alas for the servants, there comes not to him an apostle, but they mock at him. Do they not consider how many of the generations we have destroyed before them, because they do not turn to them? And all of them shall surely be brought before us. And assigned to them is a dead earth. We give life to it and bring forth from it grain, so they eat all of it. And we make therein gardens of palms and grapevines, and we make springs to flow forth in it, that they may eat the fruit thereof, and their hands did not make it. Will they not then be grateful? Glory be to him who creates pairs of all things, of what the earth grows, and of their kinds, and of what they do not know. And assigned to them is the night. We draw forth from it the day, and lo, they are in the dark. And the sun runs on to a term appointed for it, that is the ordinance of the Mighty, the Knowing. And as for the moon, we have ordained for its stages, till it becomes again as an old dry palm branch. Neither is it allowable to the sun that it should overtake the moon, nor can the night outstrip the day, and all float on it in a sphere. And a sign is to them that we bear their offspring in a laden ship, and we have created for them the like of it, and what they will ride on. And if we please, we can drown them, and there shall be no securer of them, nor shall they be rescued, but by mercy from us and enjoyment till a time. And when it is said to them that guard against what is before you and what is behind you, that there may be mercy had on you, and there comes not to them a communication of the communications of their Lord, but they turn aside to it. And when it is said to them, spend out of what Allah has given you, those who disbelieve say to those who believe, shall we feed him whom, if Allah please, he could feed? You are in naught but clear error. And they say, when will this threat come to pass if you are truthful? They wait not for aught but a single cry which will overtake them, while they yet contend with one another. So they shall not be able to make a bequest, nor shall they return to their families. And the trumpet shall be blown, when lo, from their graves they shall hasten to their Lord. And they shall say, O woe us! Who has raised us up from our sleeping place? This is what the Beneficent Allah has promised us, and the apostles told the truth. There would be a naught but a single cry, when lo, they shall all be brought before us. So this day no soul shall be dealt with unjustly in the least, and you shall not be rewarded aught but that which you did. Surely the dwellers of the garden shall on that day be in occupation quite happy. They and their wives shall be in shades, reclining on raised couches. They shall have fruits therein, and they shall have whatever they desire. Peace, a word from a merciful Lord. And get aside today, O guilty ones. Did I not charge you, O children of Adam, that you should not serve the shaitan? Surely he is your open enemy. And that you should serve me, this is the right way. And certainly he led astray numerous people from among you. What, could you not then understand? This is the hell which you were threatened. Enter into it this day because you disbelieved. On that day we will set a seal upon their mouths, and their hands shall speak to us, and their feet shall bear witness of what they earned. And if we please, we would certainly push out their eyes. Then they would run about groping for the way, but how should they see? And if we please, we would surely transform them in their place. Then they would not be able to go on, nor will they return. And whomsoever we cause to live long, we reduce him to an abject state in constitution. Do they not then understand? We have not taught him poetry, nor is it meet for him. It is nothing but a reminder and a plain Quran, that it may warn him who have life, and that the word may prove true against the unbelievers. Do they not see that we have created a castle for them, out of what our hands have wrought? So they are their masters. And we have subjected them to them, so some of that they have to ride upon, and some that they may eat. And therein they have advantages and drinks. Will they not then be grateful? And they then have taken gods beside Allah that may be helped. But they shall not be able to assist them, and they shall be a host brought up before them. Therefore let not their speech grieve you. Surely we know what they do in secret and what they do openly. Does not man see that we have created him from the small seed? Then lo, he is an open disputant. And he strikes out a likeness for us, and forgets his own creation. Says he, Who will give the life to the bones when they are rotten? Say, he will give life to them who were brought into existence at its first, and he is cognizant of all creations. He who has made for you the fire to burn, and from the green trees, so that with it you kindle fire. Is not he who created the heavens and the earth able to create the like of them? Yea, and he is a creator of all, the knower. His command when he intends anything is only to say to it, Be, so it is. Therefore glory be to him, in whose hands is the kingdom of all things, and to him you shall be brought back. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عن جابر بن عبد الله أنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة وقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني زوفا فقلت له عزك بالله يا أبتاه من الزوف وقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني وغطيني به وأتيت بالكساء اليماني وغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلو كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه وقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي وقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأن رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء وقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه وقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. وقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأن رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. وقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه والسلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ وقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. وقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين. وقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأن رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ عليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزعتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فملنا جميعا تحت الكساء. أخذ برسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومها بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء الأهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن أعداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. واجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنكم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي يا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذي هم تحت الكساء. وقال أمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ وقال عز وجل هم أهل البيت نبوة معدن رسالتي هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. وقال جبرائيل يا ربي تأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ وقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. علي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم محبتكم. وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معهم وهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ وقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء وقال لي أبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم رجس أهل البيت وطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى. وقال علي أبي رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. وقال نبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبي واصطفاني برسالة نجي وما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وخفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. وقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفازنا شيتنا ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. قال النبي ثانيا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبي واصطفاني برسالته نجي وما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محافل أهل الأرض فيهن جمع من شيعتنا ومحبين وفيهم مهموم إلا فرج الله همه ولا مهموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجته إن إلا وقضى الله حاجة وقال عليهم إذا الله فزنا وسعيد وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة رب الكعبة اللهم صل على
بر محمد وعلى محمد صلوات. ہائے بابا میرے بابا، ہائے بابا میرے بابا، زخمی بابا، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، میت پہ زینب نے کہا بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، آنکھیں تو اپنی کھولیے، خاموش کیوں ہے بولیے، کیا ہو گئے ہم سے خفا، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، میت اٹھی گر آپ کی، بابا یہیں مر جاؤں گی، مجھ میں نہیں اب حوصلہ، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، آتا نہیں ہے اس کو چین، بھولا نہیں ماں کو حسین، مر جائے گا بھائی میرا، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، گھبرائیں گی اماں میری، گھبرائیں گی اماں میری، غسل و کفن کے بعد بھی خون بہہ رہا ہے آپ کا، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، پردہ چنے گا جب میرا، آئیں گی ملنے کربلا، پردہ چنے گا جب میرا، آئیں گی ملنے کربلا، یہ وعدہ کر لیجیے ذرا، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے، سجاد کیسی تھی گری، روتی تھی قد بنت علی، سجاد کیسی تھی گری، روتی تھی قد بنت علی، جس دم یتیموں نے کہا بابا ابھی مت جائیے، بابا ابھی مت جائیے میت پہ زینب نے کہا بابا ابھی مت جائیے بابا ابھی مت جائیے صلوات
صلوات پر محمد وعلی محمد. ہر ایک دل میں کربلا بسا دیا حسین نے، ہر ایک دل میں کربلا بسا دیا حسین نے. نظر نہ آتا تھا خدا دکھا دیا حسین نے، ہر ایک دل میں کربلا بسا دیا حسین نے. وہ نور ہے تو خاک ہے بشر تیرے بھی ساتھ کیا، وہ نور ہے تو خاک ہے بشر تیرے بھی ساتھ کیا. بنا کے خاک کو شفا دکھا دیا حسین نے، ہر ایک دل میں کربلا بسا دیا حسین نے. علی کا یہ بھی شعر ہے یہ تیر سے مرے گا کیا، علی کا یہ بھی شعر ہے یہ تیر سے مرے گا کیا. پسر کو ہاتھ پہ اٹھا ہنسا دیا حسین نے، ہر ایک دل میں کربلا بسا دیا حسین نے. اے موت تو نے سورما برے برے ہرا دیے، اے موت تو نے سورما برے برے ہرا دیے، مگر تجھے بھی ہے قضا ہرا دیا حسین نے، ہر ایک دل میں کربلا بسا دیا حسین نے. عرش فرش پہ ہر جگہ حسین ہی حسین ہے، عرش فرش پہ ہر جگہ حسین ہی حسین ہے. وجود ہی یزید کا مٹا دیا حسین نے، ہر ایک دل میں کربلا بسا دیا حسین نے. صلوات پر محمد وعلی محمد. ایک سورہ فاتحہ سید حبیب اصغر ابن سید حسن اختر. صلوات. پھر سے ایک صلوات.
پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ ہائے کیسے پڑھے ہے جسم کے ٹکڑے جدا جدا، ارے کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ سنو مظلوم کو بہن کا نوحہ، ہائے ہائے میرے غریب کا کیا حال کر دیا، گھوڑوں سے لاشا دشت میں پامال کر دیا، پہچانوں کس طرح سے بدن سے ہے سر جدا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ پہچان لوں گی میں تمہیں، آواز مجھ کو دو، دم توڑتے جو دیکھا ہے کری الجوان کو، آنکھوں میں اب بہن کی اجالا نہیں رہا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ پہچاننا تمہارے لیے بھی کٹن ہوا، دیکھا ہے پہلی بار جو زینب کو بیردا، آتی ہے شرم جلد بتا دو مجھے ذرا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا، کیا تم میرے حسین ہو؟ کرتا رہا ذبح کی کوشش کہاں کہاں، خنجر کی ہے کٹی ہوئی گردن پہ بھی نشان، کاٹا ہے کس طرح سے ستم گر نے گلا رے کیا تم میرے حسین ہو پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا کیا تم میرے حسین ہو پتھر ہٹا کے لاش سے زینب نے دی صدا کیا تم میرے حسین ہو صلوات
صلوات
کربل کی کہانی جب کوئی بھی سنائے گا دل والوں کی آنکھوں سے ایک دریا بہائے گا وہ قافلہ سرور کا جو شان سے نکلا تھا صغرا کو خبر کیا تھی نہ لوٹ کے آئے گا زہرا زہرا پرسال و 72 کا ٹوٹی ہے کمر شہ کی گھبرانا مگر اکبر ٹوٹی ہے کمر شہ کی گھبرانا مگر اکبر فرزند نبی تیری میت کو اٹھائے گا زہرا زہرا اکبر کا بھی پرسالو پامال ہوا قاسم جب گھوڑوں کی ٹاپوں سے پامال ہوا قاسم جب گھوڑوں کی ٹاپوں سے کس طرح چچا تیری میت کو اٹھائے گا زہرا زہرا قاسم کا بھی پرسالو تھا ہاتھوں کے کٹنے کا کچھ غم نہ دلاور کو تھا ہاتھوں کے کٹنے کا کچھ غم نہ دلاور کو سیدانیوں کا پردہ اب کون بچائے گا زہرا زہرا عباس کا پرسالو سرور نے اٹھائے تھے سب ساتھیوں کے لاشیں سرور نے اٹھائے تھے سب ساتھیوں کے لاشیں، شبیر تیرا لاشا اب کون اٹھائے گا، زہرا زہرا شبیر کا پرسالو صلوات۔ کچھ لائنیں پھوپھا جان کے لیے ہماری کزن نے پاکستان سے لکھی ہیں، زرتاج رضوی۔ ہمارا فخر تھے پہچان تھے حبیب اصغر، ہمارا فخر تھے پہچان تھے حبیب اصغر، بڑے ہما صفت انسان تھے حبیب اصغر، تمام زندگی پردیس میں گزاری ہے مگر وطن کا بڑا مان تھے حبیب اصغر، گئے علی کی ملاقات کو وہ دنیا سے، بڑے ہی صاحب ایمان تھے حبیب اصغر، دے صبر بیوی کو بچوں کو سب عزیزوں کو، ہر ایک کی جو دل و جان تھے حبیب اصغر، ہے ان کا متعارف ان سے جڑا ہر ایک رشتہ، ہر ایک رشتے کی پہچان تھے حبیب اصغر، بہت خلیق بہت پرخلوص سب کے حبیب، سبھی پہ دل سے مہربان تھے حبیب اصغر، الہی دے انہیں اعلیٰ مقام جنت میں، بڑے ہی نیک جو انسان تھے حبیب اصغر۔ ایک آخر میں سورہ فاتحہ کی درخواست ہے سید حبیب اصغر ابن سید حسن اختر۔
Salwan. Right. So we're going to begin the majlis. Brother Zaki, Rizvi, please can you come forward? Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي إليه مسائر الخلق وواقب الأمر نحمده على عظيم إحسانه ونير برهانه ونوام فضل امتنانه حمدا يكون لحقه قضاء ولشكره أداء وإلى صوابه موجبا ولحسن مزيده مقربا الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين راحة للعاشقين والمراد المشتاقين شمس العارفين والسراج السالقين نبی ہے مصباح والعلا صاحب الجود والكرم والله حافظه وجبرائيل خادمه والبراق مرقه سدرة المنتهى مقامه كاب قوسين محبوب رب المشرقين والمغربين جد الحسن والحسين مولانا ومولاي الثقلين أبو القاسم محمد وعجل فرجهم ثم الصلاة والسلام على جميع أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم منكر فضائلهم غاصب حقوقهم ومراتبهم ومنزلتهم ومقامهم من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في قرآنه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين قوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا تعبدوا إلا الله وبالوالدين إحسانا صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. There's something we do throughout our lives rather that we don't do, and I feel like it's a bit of a mistake. And that's, we forget to tell each other why we appreciate each other. We forget to remind each other of our good qualities. See, often it's in our nature to have a laugh with our mates. It's in our nature to take the mick out of each other, and that's how we get along, and that's, generally how you show you care about each other. If I can have a laugh with you, then it means we've got some kind of connection. We've got some kind of friendship. We've got some kind of relationship. But oftentimes, we forget to actually share why we have that friendship, why we have that relationship, why are we close. If ever we do, it's either at a wedding or, unfortunately, at a funeral, at a memorial, at a Chaliswan or a Soyam. I want to take a few moments today to remember Marhum Habib Asghar, the man he was. Because, see, when we talk about those who we're close with, when we talk about our friends, you can kind of think of the kind of people you want to be around. You think, the friends I have, I want them to be like X, Y, and Z, and generally speaking, your friends, they will be great in some ways, not so great in other ways. See, myself, I didn't know the Marhum, so I asked around a little bit. I asked people how they found him, how they knew him, who he was to them. And when someone passes away, you won't generally hear a bad word about them, but sometimes you can tell how a person was and who a person was by the impact they leave on those around them. The impact they leave, we often say the people who are left behind are the ones who it's most difficult for, even more so when it's a person like Marhum Habib Asghar. Why? The first person I asked about Marhum was my own father, who knew him well. I asked my dad what he was like, and the first thing my dad said was he thought of everyone before himself. For himself, he didn't care too much, but for everybody else, that's who mattered to him, the people around him. Not just his immediate family, but the people who became family to him. The people who he made family just by the way he treated them, just by the way he took care of them. That was the first thing I was told. The second thing I was told is that, look, you'll meet a lot of people in life who are selfless, but you'll meet very few who don't have an ego. You'll meet very few who don't care about what will people think. As long as it's something good that they want to do, they'll make it happen. Habib Asghar, by all accounts, was one of those people. He didn't have an ego. He didn't have that pride. He didn't have that arrogance, even though, again, by many accounts, he helped so many people. And often this is something we don't realize until after a person passes away. How many people they had helped in one way or another. How many people they had supported. How many people they had taken care of. Because we only know our relationship with those individuals. But when a person passes, we seem to find all of these other people who they helped. Habib Asghar again was one of those people who went out of his way to help those around him. And if you want to look at the contributions of Habib Asghar, there were those people who he directly helped, those people who he was directly involved with helping, but then again you have those people who he helped purely by the fact that he was one of the first of his generation of Shias to come over to this country, and he was part of that first cohort of Azadars in this country. And where we look at Azadari, where we look at the remembrance of Imam Hussein, where we look at the spread of Shia Islam in this country, it was that first cohort of people who played such a pivotal part and who really and truly became part of the history of Shias in this country. And Habib Asghar wrote his name into that history by being a part of that cohort, and not just a part of that cohort, but an active part of that cohort. One of those who was actively engaged in the development and the creation of the first Imam Barga we have in Idara Jafriya in South London, actively supported it. And although he did not live close, he made the trip down there every so often as well. See, Habib Asghar, he wrote his name in history. And I often say, whenever I'm doing kind of community work or anything, as a kid, you always want to grow up to be a superhero, right? And what does a superhero do? A superhero changes the world, but it's not easy to change the world. No, most of us won't be able to change the world. But if you play your cards right, if you have the right ideas in your mind, if you have the right thoughts in your mind, if you have the right intentions in your heart, there's 8 billion people on this earth. Each of them is living a world of their own. You might not be able to change the entire world, but just see how many worlds you can change, how many people's individual worlds you can change. And I can say without any doubt, from having spoken to those who knew him, who loved him, who cared about him, Marhum Habib Asghar was one of those people who changed many, many worlds. Once again for the Marhum, let's recite a Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim, ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. See, when you become a member of a family, or when you become family for people, you take on certain roles, certain responsibilities. And Marhum was like a father to many. He was like a guide, a father, and the way a father should be to very many people. And today that's what I want to focus on. This relationship between parents and their children. The relationship that they have. The verse of the Holy Quran was ayah 83 of Surah Baqarah, the second surah in the Holy Quran, where Allah Azza wa Jal says what? La ta'buduna, do not worship anybody but who? Illallah. Don't worship anybody except Allah Azza wa Jal. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And do good unto your parents, honor your parents, be good to them. And see, this isn't the only time where Allah Azza wa Jal says this. He does it a few different times in the Holy Quran. And when I say a few, what I really mean is very many times. If you search up the word parents in the Quran, or if you look through the Quran and look for the word parents, you will find at least 100 different entries, 100 different moments where Allah Azza wa Jal speaks of parents. And in the majority of those, Allah Azza wa Jal says these words, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And in the majority of those where He says وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, it is preceded by what? Some form of Allah Azza wa Jal talking about Tawheed. Some form of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about His oneness. But Tawheed, when we say it's the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal, it doesn't just mean that there is one God. No, Tawheed is the very existence, the very being, the very essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says again and again and again in the Quran, believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah exists as one. And do good to your parents. First of all, let's try and understand what we're talking about in Tawheed here. And I'm not going to try and dive into Tawheed because that's a very, very long topic. And I don't plan to be here for that much longer. When we look at Tawheed, Tawheed is the essence of Allah Azza wa Jal, the very being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The very being of Allah Azza wa Jal is the reason for the creation of the world as we know it. The lives that we live, they come from the existence of Allah. They come from His essence and His being. So it would not be wrong to say that Tawheed is the very reason for our lives, is the very reason for our creation. And Allah impresses upon us again and again in the Quran the importance of Tawheed. Again and again. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-Hayyul Qayyum. Again and again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Tawheed. It is, in fact, according to one of the Mufassirin, one of the commentators of the Holy Quran, the entire Quran is about Tawheed. There's not a single verse, a single letter that isn't about Tawheed, that isn't about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why then does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again and again match up Tawheed with وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and do good to your parents? See, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us His words in the Holy Quran, those words come with purpose. It's not like when you're writing a 1,500-word essay and you just have to put in a bit of extra waffle to get through it. It's not like you have to meet the word count, no. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks, He speaks with purpose. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks, He speaks with reason. Every word has purpose. And not only purpose, but has layers and layers of depth to it. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, believe only in Allah and do good to your parents, He's telling you how important it is to Him that we are good to our parents, how important it is to Him that we take care of our parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us here. But see, here's the thing, and often people come up to me after majlises when I say stuff like this because they don't like it, but I say it anyway because as far as I'm concerned, it's the truth. Just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something, it doesn't always mean that we're going to act on it. It doesn't always mean that we're going to do what He said. Why? You'll find it 101 times in your life. You'll find it millions of times in your life where you know what you should do. You know what the right thing to do is. You know what the smart thing to do is, but you still don't do it. You do something else for whatever reason. Something else is more fun. Something else is more interesting. You do something else other than what you know is correct. I'll give you an example right in front of you. I knew I shouldn't play football with an injured foot, but I did. And you guys have all seen how I've hobbled up here today. See, you can know something, can still do the opposite. Because that's the way we're wired. We have two things battling within us. We've got our mind and we've got our heart. What you know you should do and what you want to do. And they're often very different things. So, it can be the case that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you again and again in the Quran how important it is to be good to your parents, but still it just doesn't register. Still we don't do it. But I'll tell you what, and I'll use the example of my foot again. Next time I go to play football, I'll make sure I stretch. I'll make sure my injury is fully recovered. I'll make sure I'm not going to do anything that's going to damage my foot again. Why? Because I've gone through the experience of having a proper injury. And that experience has taught me, even though in my head I knew this already, the experience has it's drilled it home for me. It's hammered it home. Now, when it comes to my actions, they're going to be based off that experience, and that's going to match up with what I know. So in the same way, let's take our experience. Let's take our experience with our parents and see if we can match that up to what we've been told about them. See if we can match that up to what we know about them. So what do we know about our parents? What do we understand about them? See, often our relationship with our parents, it can be a bit of an odd one. Often our relationship with our parents, it can be different to any other relationship. Why? Because any other relationship, you expect it to be the same going both ways. If you have a friend, you expect that level of friendship that you have with them to be the same as they have with you. If you have a friend who you're really, really close with, but they don't really consider you a friend, that friendship's going to break very quickly. Same thing in a relationship. If you have a partner who you're absolutely infatuated with, absolutely in love with, and they think, yeah, that's not going to last very long. See, any other relationship, the strength of the relationship has to be the same going in both directions. But the relationship that you have with your parents is so odd because no matter how close or distant you get from your parents will always stay close to you. Your parents will always stay thinking about you. But what do we really know about them? What do we really understand about our parents? It's something we often forget about our parents. Is that our parents, they're us, just 40 years down the line. Our parents are us, except they've gone through a lot of life already. They've made all those mistakes that you're about to make, that you're yet to make. They've done all of that. See, we often forget who our parents really are. We often forget how many of our experiences are shared between us and our parents. For you guys, your parents used to get bored in lessons and start daydreaming about this, that, and the other as well. They used to forget to hand in their homework, except in those days they wouldn't get detention, they'd get a cane. See, your parents, they've gone through that as well. For the girls, your mums would have wanted to wear makeup before their mums wanted to as well. We all have those shared experiences. We all grew up in pretty much the same kind of way. It doesn't matter if your parents grew up in this country or another country. It doesn't matter if your parents grew up exactly the same as you or not. There's so many things, so many experiences that you will go through that your parents have had already. They've done all that. They've experienced that. They get that. They understand it. But sometimes we think of our parents as completely different to us, almost separate from us in every way. Don't forget, that's where you came from. Your parents are just your future self. You are the past version of your parents, and sometimes it can be the case where we feel like our parents don't understand us. We feel like our parents don't get us. They don't know what our life is like, and I've been asked today to speak about parents and children and how to respect your parents, but I've kind of taken a flip on that. This will be a lecture both to the parents and to the kids. See, sometimes we feel like our parents don't get us. We feel like they don't understand us. They don't know what it's like to be us. They don't realize what my life is like, what I'm going through. That's how we feel sometimes. But why? Why might our parents not get us? The first thing to recognize and the first thing to realize is they get you more than you realize. They do, because like I say, they've lived a lot of those experiences, but also at the same time, one of the very big reasons as to why your parents might not know what your life is like, or they might not know about your life, is what? Because you haven't told them. See, your parents, like I say, they're just people. You weren't born with some kind of manual or some kind of instruction set. That's not how it works. And your parents, yeah, they have a sixth sense for when you're okay and when you're not. But they aren't telepathic. They can't read your mind. If you don't tell them, they won't understand. And this is where I come on to the parents bit, where I start talking to the parents a little bit as well. Why don't we always talk to our parents? Why don't we always tell them about those things that we wish they just knew, but we don't want to tell them? We don't want to speak to them about it. Why? There's a bunch of different reasons. One, sometimes when you're telling your parents a funny story and it turns into a lecture, you feel like, oh, no, I don't want to do that again. And sometimes it can feel like that happens a lot. Every time I tell them, oh, this happened at school today, you're not getting in trouble at school, are you? No, we're having a laugh. Sometimes it can feel like it turns into a lecture. Certain things with your parents, it feels like it's awkward to talk about. And that comes from a good place. That comes from a place of respect, recognizing that your parents aren't the same as your mates in school. Recognizing that there is a certain level of respect that you owe to your parents, and sometimes that makes certain conversations awkward, certain conversations a bit more difficult, but again, it shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't need to be, but it can be. There's the awkwardness. There's sometimes where it turns into a lecture. There's all these different reasons as to why we don't necessarily talk to our parents, why we don't tell them things. But then I have to ask the question, you want your parents to understand you, to get you, but you're not telling them about these things. So is that your parents' fault or is that on us? Sometimes we have to think about what are the responsibilities on me and what are the responsibilities on my parents. Like we said, in any relationship, it does go two ways, and same with this one as well. Even if your parents' closeness to you might be stronger than you feel with them sometimes, the responsibilities of that relationship still go both ways. So, for instance, for your parents always turning things into lectures, that's somewhere where your parents can improve. But where things are awkward, that's somewhere where you can improve. Break down those barriers a little bit. Push on. Try and have those conversations, and parents, make it easier for your kids to have those conversations as well. But what are those responsibilities? And they're extensive, there's loads. I'm going to bring it back to our religion, bring it back to Islam for a moment here. What does Islam tell us? What are the responsibilities that we have towards our parents? What are the responsibilities that they have towards us? What do we have to speak about, or what do we have to do for our parents, and what do they have to do for us? Because Islam does, it outlines all of these things for us. And it's interesting, when it comes to what we have to do for our parents, the first thing Islam says and puts great emphasis on is that we have to try and understand them. We understand our mothers and fathers in different ways according to Islam. Let's start with our mothers. Islam says the right of a mother, so what her kids have to do for her is what? The first thing is, a child has to try and understand what his or her mother went through. A child has to understand, and this is written by our fourth Imam, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam. In his book, or in his compilation of the treatise of rights. The Imam says the rights of a mother are that you understand she took care of you when nobody else can take care of you. She fed you when nobody else could feed you. He says she fed you from her heart the way nobody else can. He says the rights of a mother are that you recognize that she protected you when nobody else could protect you, that she carried you in a way that nobody else can carry you. He says you have to understand all these sacrifices that your mother made for you. That's what we have to understand about our mothers. All the sacrifices that they go through, all the things that they do, those sleepless nights that they're awake because you were ill, or because you were out late and you didn't tell her where you were. All the long nights that she spends, all that time she spent, every time that she was hungry but she hadn't eaten yet because she was cooking food for you or she was getting food ready for you. All those times you annoyed your mum, and if you ever want to figure out how much your parents love you, just think about any time they were angry with you. Think about any time your mum was absolutely fuming with you because you did whatever it was you did. You did something, she was angry, she shouted at you, she hit you, she did whatever. But I guarantee when she cooked food for the family, she cooked it for you as well. I guarantee she made enough to make sure you eat as well. And I guarantee her being angry at you hurt her more than it hurt you. Because that's a mother's love. And we're told by our fourth Imam that we have to recognize what that mother's love is. We have to recognize all the sacrifices that our mother goes through for us. That's what Imam Sajjad says. We have to acknowledge about our mother. And then he says what? And the right is that you thank her for it. You thank your mother for that. But we're told again and again, Islamically and generally through experience, you realize this, you can never thank your mother enough. You can never do enough to thank your mother. Because everything she's given, everything she's done for you is greater than anything you can ever do for her. Greater than anything you can do to take care of your mother. The first thing that we have to do for our mother, acknowledge what they've done for us. The second thing is thank them to the best of our abilities. The third thing is to serve them. Now see, this is a curious one because you'd think the way you thank your mother is to serve her, but no, they're mentioned as two separate things. What does that mean? Take some time out. Show your mother some love the way she shows some love to you. Be it verbal, be it physical, however. Show your mother the affection that she shows you and serve her separately. The service you give to your mother is not the thanks that you give to her, no. The thanks you give to your mother is something emotional. The service you give to her is something practical. A man once comes to our sixth Imam, in fact, a man once comes to our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It was the time of war. The Muslim army needed soldiers. The man comes to our Prophet and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I wish to go and fight. The Prophet says to him, is your mother at home, not unwell? The man says, yes, she is. The Prophet says, Islam will be defended. Islam will find its soldiers. Your job is at home to take care of your mother. Jihad is wajib in Islam. To give your life for your religion is wajib. It is amongst our 10 furu'a deen, the things that if you do not complete, then you have not completed the rights, the responsibilities that you have on this earth. But here, when the opportunity comes for this man to do it, the Prophet tells him, no. You stay home and you take care of your mother because that is more important. That's the status of our mothers. That's the status of who they are. But of course, where they have rights, there's also responsibilities. So what are the responsibilities of a mother over her child? What must the mother do for her children? The first is a mother must put her child above everything else. A mother must put her child above herself and everything in her life. And when we look at our mothers, we realize they really do. They truly do. The second is that a mother must protect her child in two ways. What are those two ways? The first is she must protect her child emotionally. And the second is that she must protect her child practically. Let me give you an example to explain what that means. To protect your child emotionally is to do absolutely everything that you can do to stop your child getting hurt. Now, to protect your child practically, let's say your child gets injured, gets hurt. They need surgery. Surgery is going to be painful. It's going to hurt. And every time a child is hurting, that child's mother is hurting as well. But to protect her child practically means to make sure that that surgery goes ahead. even if it hurts the child. Why? Because practically it's better for the child in the long run. Practically it's better for the child overall. So a mother's job is to take care of her children, to put them above herself, to put them above everything else. And secondly, a mother's job is to love her child and protect her child both emotionally and practically. The third job of a mother, and this is one that's shared between mothers and fathers, is to show love to her children. Now again, we're using the same words, but they come up again and again. Why? Because they have different meanings. There, it was to actually love her child through her protection, through her actions. Here is to show that child love. Show that nurturing, show that nourishment, show that care. Like we said at the start, oftentimes we forget to mention the positives about people in their life. It's a mother's job to make sure that doesn't happen between her and her child. If you're proud of your kids, tell them. If you love your son, tell him. If you love your daughter, tell her. That's the job of a mother. Now what about your father? What about your dad? First and foremost, what does a dad have to do for their child? The first thing mentioned is that a dad has to give his child a good name. This is the first thing, very specifically mentioned, that a father is responsible for making sure his son or daughter has a good name. And after that, what is there? To provide for and protect his children. That's the job of a father. And the third one that is mentioned, that a father has to show love and affection to his child. Again, same as a mother, but there's more emphasis put when we're talking about fathers here. Why? Because as fathers, I'm not a father, but for those of you who are, you'll realize, and for those of you who are younger, you'll realize your dads are a bit more what we call stoic. They're not always very emotional. They don't show their soft side. Even if they have one, they don't show it all the time. It's a job of a father to let their child in to that soft side, into that vulnerable side, into that side that's full of emotion and care and love that they have inside them, but they don't always show. That strong exterior that our dads have. Our dads are a rock, and they're a rock for a reason. But it's the job of a dad, Islamically, to let their child in past that hard shell. That's the job of a father. A father is told, be physically affectionate with your children. Hug your children, kiss your children. This is the job of a father. But at the same time, it's a father's responsibility to do what? To make sure that they keep it within a certain moderation. Why? So that their child does not become spoiled and arrogant. Because it's the job of a father to teach their child, to guide their child. To the point, so much so, that if you do something good, your father gets part of the reward for it. If you do something bad, your father gets part of the punishment for it. So we've spoken about what a father has to do. What do we have to do for our fathers? The first thing, like we spoke about before, is acknowledge. So with a mother, we have to acknowledge everything she did. With a father, what do we have to acknowledge? What do we have to know about our fathers? Islamically, what you have to know about your fathers is that you come from them. The words used are that they are the root and you are the branch. So recognize. Try and figure out, how am I like my dad? What was there about my dad that you can see in me? What have I gotten from him? Because you do have similarities with your father. You do. One of your jobs is to recognize what those are. The second job that a child has towards his father is to make sure he doesn't tarnish his father's image. Because when you will go out into the world, you're a representation of your family and specifically of your father, so make sure that when you're out in the world, you're upholding that reputation. Make sure that when somebody sees you, they think of your dad as a good person, as a good man. The third one is to understand that your good deeds and bad deeds impact your father's book of deeds as well. And the fourth one is that you serve your father before he ever needs to ask you. Before your father ever needs to ask you for something, you give him that. That's the fourth one. And one of the most important ones. Because you'll see the connection between you and your parents, it's an odd one. As you grow older and stronger, at the same time, they'll grow more weak and more frail. You'll have to start taking care of them more. You get to a point where it's almost like they're the child and you're the parent now, the way you take care of them. We recite a dua in Qunut, it's a verse of the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Oh Allah, take care of my parents the way they used to take care of me when I was little. This duty that we have towards our parents, especially towards our father, extends to this. Respect your father. Respect him even when he's older, even when he's frail, even when he's weak, even when he needs you more than you need him. Respect him. A man once asked our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he asked him, how should one respect his father? How does somebody show respect to his father? The Imam says, first, when you and your father are walking, don't walk in front of him. Let your father walk ahead of you and you walk behind him. The second, if your father is ever standing, you shouldn't be sitting. When we look at these little things, these little marks of respect, we realize how to really and truly respect. And we see these signs of respect back home in Pakistan, in India. We tend to see these signs of respect there quite often, but sometimes I feel like we've forgotten that here. Sometimes I feel like we don't have those same elements of respect here. It's important to recognize that these things are important elements of respect, and not just important elements of respect, but they come from an Islamic background as well. These are things that Islam has told us to do. And today, when we remember Marhum Habib Asghar, we're remembering a man who became a father for so many. Not just his own children, but the community around him, the people around him. A man who had such an influence and such an impact and such a drive to help young people, to push young people forward. And we've seen it today, mashallah. Almost the entire program has been carried out by those who are young. See, a father holds a very special place. Your mother is the person who you run to every time you need help. Your mother is the person who you look for every time you go through a difficult time. Your father is the person who you immediately realize isn't there. Your father's that rock that you hold on to. Your father's that person who, no matter how tough things get, if you can see your dad holding strong, then you can find strength within yourself as well. Today I want to remember one of the greatest fathers we have in our history. It is the month of Ramadan. Bibi Kulthum, she speaks to her father. She says, tonight I want you to do iftar at my house. I want you to eat at mine. Imam Ali alayhi salam says to his daughter, fine, I will come to your house. And she says, bring Abbas as well. Says, I'll bring Abbas. Bibi Kulthum excited. Today my dad's going to come and eat at my house. She sends out a messenger to Bibi Zainab. Dad's coming over for iftar today. Make sure you're here as well. A messenger goes to the house of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Today our father will come. Let's sit together and eat iftar. Make sure everybody's there. Messenger goes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The whole family's getting together. Make sure you're there. They all come together. The time for iftar falls. It is Maghrib time. Maghrib is recited in the masjid. Everybody comes home. The house is alive. There's energy, there's spirit. Everyone's buzzing. The family are together. All the brothers and sisters are excited. They're happy. But Amir al-Mu'mineen is sat at the dinner table silently. He's sat there quietly. He's not saying anything. Everybody's talking, everybody's engaged, everybody's having fun. But Amir al-Mu'mineen is not. Bibi Kulthum notices this, but she doesn't say anything. The night goes on. They decide, tonight, let's just stay here. Let's just spend the night here at Kulthum's house. Everybody lays down to rest, except for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen walks outside into the courtyard of the house, And he starts pacing back and forth, back and forth. Now see, when we say parents have a special intuition over their children, a parent can sense when their child is worried or upset. The same way a daughter has a special intuition for her father. Bibi Kulthum, she realizes something is wrong, something is upsetting my father, so she goes to her father, she goes to Amir al-Mu'mineen, she asks him, tell me, what is the matter? Why do you seem so upset? Why do you seem so worried? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, what makes you think I am worried? She says, I saw at the dinner table you didn't say anything. I've seen all night you're pacing back and forth. When I look at your face, the color has drained, you have gone pale. I can tell there is something wrong. Why won't you tell me what it is? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Kulthum, there was a great day that was promised to me, a great night that was promised to me. That night is tonight. He says, I'm not worried, I'm excited, I'm ready. But Amir al-Mu'mineen is masking something deep in his heart. We will realize as the night goes on what that is. Bibi Kulthum, once her father has consoled her, she goes back into the house to rest. The time for Fajr comes, the boys all get up and they get ready to go to Masjid al-Kufa with their father. Imam Hassan alayhi salam steps forward. Imam Hussein alayhi salam steps forward. Abu al-Fadl Abbas steps forward. Amir al-Mu'mineen turns to his two sons, Hassan and Hussein. He says, come. And then he turns to Abbas. He says, Abbas, tonight you wait here with Zainab and Kulthum. Abbas, wait here with your sisters tonight. As the family leave towards Masjid al-Kufa, Abbas, the baby brother, looks on wondering, why did my dad leave me here? Why did he leave me behind? What did I do? Is he upset with me? Did I do something wrong? But no, Abbas, Amir al-Mu'mineen knows a day will come where Zainab will have nobody and she will look for her. Abbas, he is getting you ready today to become the protector of Zainab. Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to Masjid al-Kufa. He wakes the man lying on the floor. The adhan is read, but this time not by the mu'adhin. Every time the adhan was read, there was a specific mu'adhin, a specific man who would recite it. Today Amir al-Mu'mineen stepped forward. He said, today let Ali recite adhan himself. In the house Zainab and Kulthum heard. From here their hearts begin to tremble. There is a pain in my father's voice. There is something wrong. Now the salah begins. Imam Ali alayhi salam begins to lead the salah. Standing behind him in the jama'ah is Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Beside him Imam Hussein alayhi salam. As Imam Ali goes into sajda, Ibn Muljim rushes forward. He draws his sword covered in poison. He strikes Ali in the head. Imagine the strength of Hassan, the responsibility of the man standing behind the Imam of the Jamaat is what? If anything happens to the man leading the Jamaat, the Imam leading the Jamaat, the responsibility of the man standing behind him is to step forward and complete the Jamaat. Here, Hassan Mujtaba has seen his father fall to the ground, but he could not rush to his father's aid. This is how Ali raised his sons. Hassan steps forward. He completes the salah. A group of Imam Ali's followers, they rush to him. They start holding him. They take him in their arms. Here, Amir al-Mu'mineen has been struck. A cry was heard in the skies of Kufa. Ali has been attacked in the masjid. Zainab and Kulthum heard. They had their Abbas with them. They turn to Abu al-Fadl Abbas. They say, Abbas, go quickly, see what has happened. What is this we are hearing? Abbas. We often think Zainab and Kulthum, the two daughters of Amir al-Mu'mineen, how worried must they have been? But we tend to forget Abbas, this young boy, was so attached to his father. What must Abbas have thought as he rushes to the masjid? He rushes in, he sees a crowd around the mihrab. He rushes forward, he sees his brothers worried. He sees Hassan and Hussein concerned. As he looks down, he sees Amir al-Mu'mineen on the floor, a strike in his head, blood gushing, the sand and the blood mixing into the Imam of Ali. The Imam of Ali falls onto the floor, unravels. Abbas takes his father in his arms. He holds him close. Amir al-Mu'mineen turns to Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Abbas, turn around. What do you see? Abbas sees Ibn Muljim. He becomes enraged. Here he has his father. He does not know, should I hold my father and comfort him, or should I go and attack the man who hurt my father? Amir al-Mu'mineen turns to Abbas. He says, Abbas, Do you see how worried Ibn Muljim is? Do you see how scared he is? Abbas, go and get him something to drink. Get him something sweet. Bring him some milk. Look at the heart of Abbas. In his head he must have been thinking, should I hold my father or should I go after the man that hurt him? Instead he is told, let go of your father. Comfort the one who attacked him. Abbas, he gets Ibn Muljim some milk. But when I read this, a thought occurred to my mind. In the masjid, if Amir al-Mu'mineen had said, Abbas, go get Ibn Muljim some water, maybe there might have been some water there, but where would he find any milk in the masjid? Abbas had to go back to the house of Kulthum. He had to knock on the door of his sister. He had to ask for the milk. My heart tells me Kulthum must have asked, Abbas, what has happened? We sent you to check on our father. Who is the milk for? Abbas would tell them, our father was struck in sajda. It was a sword covered in poison. He is very gravely injured. He is very wounded. And then when Kulthum hands him the milk, thinking it is for his father, how does Abbas explain, this is not for my father lying on the floor, but for Ibn Muljim who attacked him? Abbas takes the milk, returns to the masjid. He gives it to Ibn Muljim to drink. Ibn Muljim's hands are shaking. Ibn Muljim cannot drink the milk himself. Now Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Abbas, you give him the milk with your two hands. Abul Fadl Abbas, he feeds Ibn Muljim. Now, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he is in the masjid, blood is spilling, his companions get him up to take him back to the house. Imam Ali alayhi salam, as he tries to stand up, he trembles and he falls over. He tries once more again, he shakes and he falls. Ali does not have the strength left within him to stand on his own 2 feet. The man who destroyed Khaybar, the man who split Marhum in 2, the winner of the battle of Siffin, the winner of the battle of Badr and Uhud. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen. What does he do now? He does not have the strength to stand. So his followers, they lay out his abba. Imam Ali alayhi salam is lifted onto his own abba. They lift him up like a stretcher and start carrying him towards his house. Amir al-Mu'mineen was a great warrior. And he was built like a great warrior as well. Strong and tall, taller than his companions around him. When they are taking him to his house in his abba, his feet drag along the ground, leaving marks in the sand. As they approach the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali turns to Imam Hassan and Hussein and he says to them, tell all my followers to return to their homes. Imam Hassan and Hussein say to their father, but father, they have come here out of love for you. They do not want to leave you. They want to take care of you. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I know they have come out of love for me, but I also know that in my house, Zainab and Kulthum have heard what has happened. Zainab will be crying, Kulthum will be wailing. I do not want my followers to hear the cries of my daughters. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, the days of Marhum are approaching. These are your followers who would comfort Zainab and Kulthum should they hear them. What happens in Kufa just a few years later when Zainab and Kulthum return? But instead of any comfort, they're met with lashes and stones. Those who didn't have anything to throw would go into their house. They would boil pots of hot water and throw the hot water at Zainab and Kulthum. Amir al-Mu'mineen sends his companions away. Hassan and Hussein continue taking their father towards the house. Amir al-Mu'mineen gets to a point where he stops. He tells Hassan and Hussein, look, now help me off of this abba. Help me onto my own 2 feet. They look at their father, they say, you do not have the strength. They look at their father, they say, you cannot stand on your own 2 feet. Ali says, no, from here, Ali will find the strength. From here, I will make the strength. Why? Because Ali does not want Zainab to see her father in so much pain. He knows Zainab has to go through so much in life. He knows the pain she felt when her mother passed away. He knows the pain she'll feel when she pulls the arrows from the janazah of Hassan. He knows the pain she'll feel when she stands watching Hussein have his head cut. Amirul Mu'mineen does not want any point Zainab to think, I would turn to my father. But even he was so wounded. Ali stands on his own 2 feet. He has his arms around his 2 sons. Abbas has his hand on his father's back. They slowly edge towards the house. As Amirul Mu'mineen enters, his 2 daughters rush towards him. They know he is hurt. They know he is wounded. Amirul Mu'mineen, he takes his 2 daughters by the arms. He hugs them close. He holds them tight. Here, Amirul Mu'mineen, as he holds his 2 daughters, he knows the time is very near. There's not long left. They take him to his bed. Amirul Mu'mineen is laid on the bed. The doctor is called. The doctor assesses the wound in the head of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. The doctor says to Imam Hassan, look, your father, he will not survive. Your father now has had so much poison entered into his head that if it were to be given to all of Arabia, all of Hijaz, every single person would not survive. Not a single person would survive. But now your father has taken all of that on his own. There is no chance left for him. But if you want to take away some of his pain, if you want to make it easier for him, then there is one thing you can do. Imam Hassan says to him, tell me, what is it? The man says, the doctor says, at this point, for your father, milk would be very beneficial. Milk will take away some of the pain that he is feeling. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he turns to his family, he says, we've been told that some milk will help our father, that some milk will take away the pain. As he says this, the companions who are outside here, word spreads through the streets of Kufa. The night falls. When the morning rises again, there is a knock at the door. When Imam Hassan goes to open the door, he immediately speaks to whoever is outside, closes the door and returns inside. His face drops towards the ground. Imam Ali turns to his son, he says, Hassan, tell me, who is at the door? Imam Hassan turns to his father, he says, somebody came to the door. They offered some help, but you would not like if I took it, so I turned them away. Imam Ali says, tell me, who was it that came to the door? Imam Hassan says, it will hurt you very much if you find out. Amirul Mu'mineen says, tell me, who was it? Imam Hassan, with tears in his eyes, he says to his father, every orphan from the streets of Kufa went thirsty last night, went without any milk, because somebody told them Amir al-Mu'mineen needs milk to ease his pain. Now the children have bought the milk. Imam Ali says to Hassan, tell them, go to their homes, go to where they stay, tell them to drink the milk themselves tonight. This is what will make Ali happy. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he lies there in pain, but again, we are remembering a father. This father made sure every single one of his children was taken care of after his death. How? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he gathers all his sons in one room, and one by one, he calls them forward. He places each of their hands in the hands of Hassan Mujtaba. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he is given and granted the successorship, the wilayah. He is told, all of his sons are told, from now on, Hassan is your imam. From now on, Hassan is your leader. From now on, Hassan is your protector. Imam Ali alayhi salam calls forward each and every one of his sons. He places their hands in the hands of Imam Hassan. After a short while, the wife of Imam Ali, Bibi al-Baneen, she steps forward to Imam Ali with tears in her eyes. Imam Ali looks at her, he says, while I am still alive, I do not want to see your tears. I do not want to see your pain. She says, what can I do? My son Abbas is crying. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said, tell me, why is my Abbas crying? Why is my soldier crying? Now she looks at him and she says, tell me, what was it that my Abbas did that upset you? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, what do you mean? How could Abbas ever upset me? How could Abbas ever hurt me? Bibi al-Baneen says to him, on the night you were struck, you left Abbas at home. When Abbas arrived in the masjid, you sent him back to the house. Today when you gave everyone's hands in the hands of Hassan Mujtaba, you left Abbas to one side. Imam Ali calls Abbas forward. He calls Hussein forward. He takes the hand of Abbas. He places it in the hands of Hussein. He says, Abbas, from now on my Hussein is your master. Wherever Hussein goes, you go with him. Abbas, from now on my Hussein is your protector. Wherever you need help, you turn to your big brother Hussein. Abbas, whatever happens, Hussein won't let you get hurt. Abbas, whatever happens, you don't let Hussein get hurt either. Abul Fadl Abbas, his big brother Hussein, his master, his Mawla, in that moment formed a connection that would not be broken until the fateful day of Ashura, where we see the final acts of fatherhood from Amir al-Mu'mineen. What were those final acts of fatherhood? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said something to Imam Hussein that Hussein never forgot. It was the time where Hussein was about to leave the tents. Sayyid al-Shuhada, for the final time, bids farewell to his darling sister Zainab Ulya Khatun. He takes Zainab, he holds her close, he hugs his sister, and then he says something very peculiar. What does he say? He says, Zainab, pull forward the sleeves from your arms. Zainab does not understand, but she does it as her brother asked. Imam Hussein takes the hands of his sister Zainab. He begins kissing her hands. He begins kissing her arms. Zainab turns to him. She says, what is this? At a time like this, why do you kiss my arms? Hussein says, those were not from me. Before our father left this world, he told me, Hussein, a time will come where Zainab will have chains in her hands. She will be shackled and handcuffed. Before that time comes, Hussein kissed Zainab's hands from her father Ali. Imam Hussein says, for as long as I had my Abbas, I did not know how this could happen, but my father said it, so I believed it. Now your Abbas is gone, your Hussein is leaving. I know that now is the time. After today, Zainab, your hands will be in shackles, your arms will be in chains. Allah la'natullahi ala qawmin zalimin. Sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. We raise our hands in dua. O Allah, raise the ranks of Marhum Habib Asghar amongst the ranks of those in heaven. O Allah, forgive all the wrongdoings of our Marhumeen. Grant them all a place amongst the highest ranks of Jannah. O Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time. Allow us to be amongst those who stand alongside him. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع الدعاء. ما دام حسين.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein,
لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا إمام لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا إمام مولا تیرے حضور میں حاضر ہے یہ غلام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین لبیک آنکھیں ترس رہی تھی زیارت کے واسطے کر لیجئے قبول مولا میرا سلام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا طاقت ہے دوان میں ہے کہاں جو کروں کلام اشکوں سے کر رہا ہوں رقم حال دل تمام یا شاہ مشرقین یا شاہ تشنکام لبیک حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا قاسم کا نکالی اصغر کا واسطہ عباس نامدار کا اکبر کا واسطہ لکھ لیجئے حضور غلاموں میں میرا نام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین احسان مند ہیں شہ عالی مقام کے رتبے بلند کر دیے مولا غلام کے اب ظاہروں میں آپ کے آتا ہے میرا نام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا عالم میں سر بلند نہ ہو کیوں یہ سرزمین رکھی یہاں ہے کعبہ ایمان نے جبی سوتا یہاں ہے فاطمہ زہرا کا لالہ فام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا قوسین جس کو کہتے ہیں یہ وہ کمان ہے زیر زمین سوتا یہاں آسمان ہے روشن یہاں ہے خاک پہ خورشید گام گام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا اگلا لہو صغیر نے سے خاک پاک پر شبیر دیکھتے رہے اور اس کی خاک پر اکبر کی نا تمام جوانی ہوئی تمام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا امام لبیک یا حسین لبیک یا حسین یا حسین 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 محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك السلام عليك وعلى أمك وأخيك السلام عليك لتسعة المعصومين من ذريتك بنيك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموع، السلام عليك يا أنيس النفوس أيها المضفون بأرض طوس، يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرباروهي، وجسمي وقلبي لك الفداء. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان، سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك واستعلى الله طال مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم